Hi, I think we are live. So, welcome to the Medium channel where we bring you the spirituality behind the message. And this is Adam, and it's a beautiful, rainy, chilly Monday morning here in the Catskills. So, want to dive right into this today. And I started to do these Ascension updates starting in October because my guides were saying this is the time that we were stepping out of the cusp of the big awakening that we're in and into the heart of it. And it was signaled by the last new moon and Pluto going stationary direct. So what I'm going to do today is explain briefly about the astrology, what's happening over this week and how that's affecting the next couple of weeks. So I'm going to keep this conversation really focused on the next 2 or 3 weeks or so. Then I'm going to explain what my guides have been downloading to me. So I did some channeling, some automatic writing last night to prepare for today. And then this morning I had to decipher those notes because when I'm doing my channeling and automatic writing, I'm writing so fast it looks like scribble. So I'm having to kind of turn that into notes. I'm going to be looking down at my notes a lot and then explain things that we can do as spiritual practices that are really conducive to the energies that are happening now. So first and foremost, a welcome everybody who's live and people that are going to watch later as a video. Welcome. So we have a full moon coming on Wednesday, the 20th, a big, powerful full moon to close out the sign Aries. So I believe it's going to be at about 27 degrees Aries, which depicts in numerology a completion cycle of sorts and an ending. And then the moon goes void, of course, because that's its last major aspect in the sign of Aries. Then it goes into Taurus right after that. So while the moon is full, it's going to be forming a very intense T square. So these are planets that are kind of hitting each other through opposition and through squaring aspects. So they tend to energize and challenge each other when that happens. So we have Pluto at the apex in Capricorn. That's right. Um, then we have the Sun and Mars. Mars is kind of in we'll say a marginal conjunction with the sun. I think it's about 3 or 4 degrees off by that point, about 4 degrees off. And then, of course, the moon at the other side in Aries. So this is a very, very Mars. Mars is about action. Mars is about warriorship. Pluto tends to stir things up and tends to bring a real kind of a transmutation and what's the word? Transmutation, and I can't think of the other word. Transformative will do energy, almost revolutionary. And Uranus and Neptune are doing their thing. So is Saturn, and in fact, the moon is going to square Saturn tomorrow morning. So it's very active, very activating, and with Pluto involved, it's activating the subconscious and the deeper layers, and with Mars involved, it's really energizing things that may, on one hand, cause a lot of dissension amongst people. So we want to stay in a very calm space during this full moon. People may be a little bit more argumentative, a little bit more difficult to deal with, a little bit more clashing, a little bit more of this kind of an energy. So stay in your own lane. And then on Saturday, we start the Scorpio season. The sun goes into Scorpio next Saturday. So very, very transformative, slow, deep breathing, practicing presence, all that good stuff. Very, very important. So I wanted to, oh, and by the way, Sharita Starr, who's an expert in astrology and numerology, who's been following these trends for many years now, she'll be on the channel sometime in November. I don't have a date nailed out yet, but you can get her take on things through Facebook actually. So I wanted to mention that. because she would have a lot more detail to say about the astrology. I know some, but that's not my forte. But for what my guides were saying, the first message is this is the dragon period or dragon energy that we're coming into. And that's about warriorship. It's about purging. It's about transmutation. And it's about mastery. Dragons breathe fire. And it's a very kind of a tower energy where things have to fall to be rebuilt. Now, by the way, my guides want me to remind you that this is not about doom and gloom now. It's about awakening. It's about renewal. It's about reaching our next evolutionary level and process. And this is going to be kind of a jump. It may be a little bit of a, what's the right word, an erratic jump into our next level. But the whole idea is that this is happening for very positive reasons, for us to awaken and to really connect more with spirit and more through the heart and awaken more through the heart. But the thing is that a lot of resistance to the awakening is happening. There's a small group of people that really benefit from the masses not being awake, that are trying to delay or resist that. And then, of course, awakening is change, and we come into an energy that we're not familiar with, and that brings up fear and survival issues. So this is important to know this, because we have to be able to understand that discomfort is fine. It's part of the process. So we have to be able to be in our heart, to be in our center, and to learn to relax and just allow energy to flow through us rather than resist the flow, rather than resist the change. So this is part of dragon energy, and it's the trial by fire. It relates to the judgment card in the tarot, which is about awakening and renewal, but sometimes there's trials, it's initiation. So he also said to look at what's going on in the world with the virus and everything as a spiritual tool rather than some destructive force or some negative thing or some terrible conspiracy. I mean, it may be all of those things, but they're saying to look at this as a spiritual tool, again, for purging. If anybody has had COVID, there's a lot of purging that goes on with that, right? The body cleanses, but they wanted us to not to see that as negative, and understand that it's a terrible thing from a human perspective that so many people are sick, and a lot of people have crossed over. But some souls have, through their soul contract, volunteered to leave at this time to join the army of warriors in the spirit level to assist humanity in this awakening. This is a period of history that is extremely what's the right word? Gosh, I can't think of my words today. I apologize for that. Well, it's extremely monumental. We're basically evolving during this period in such a rapid rate. It's a rapid evolution, and it's going to have its challenges. So again, some souls are volunteering to lead. There's a lot, and a lot of these cells will come back as the changes have happened and humanity's more awakened to help to rebuild the society. So the next thing they said is the veils between conscious mind and subconscious mind are going to be especially thin over the next couple of weeks as the moon, basically the moon, when it hits its full and then it starts to wane, it's like the moon is exhaling, or the lunar energies are exhaling. So as the moon is waxing, it's like an inhale of lunar energy. It peaks on the full moon, and then there's an exhale. So it's a release process that naturally happens during waning moons. And this particular waning moon, one of the things is the veils between the worlds of human and spirit is thin naturally. That's what Halloween or the holiday Samhain or Dia de los Muertos is about. But it's a thinning of the veils between our conscious and subconscious. And in the subconscious mind, we have a lot of suppressed pain and a lot of suppressed trauma and a lot of programming. And as the veil's thin, we're going to have opportunity that we may not have had in our lifetimes to really look within and really start to understand these subconscious shadows and the patterns in our lives that they've caused, where their origins are from, what they're about. And then that gives us the opportunity to release them. And we release them through embracing the shadows and integrating them, not seeing them as negative, but seeing them as a tool for learning and growth. So I wanted to explain that. Okay. And then I wrote down, do not fear looking into your shadows, embrace it. Yeah, the shadows can be the parts of our psyche that as so-called civilized human beings we're not proud of, because it's part of our survival, it's part of our primitive selves. But mostly it's what we've suppressed and how that's affected our patterns in life, and how that's affected what we've created in our lives, because we create our reality both collectively and individually. And if we're not aware of what we've suppressed in the subconscious, well, I'll put it this way: either you're consciously creating your reality, or your subconscious shadows are doing that for you. You have an opportunity to be conscious of it. Don't fear it, embrace it. It's not going to bite you. In fact, sometimes the most daunting part of all that is the unknown. So once it becomes known, it's no longer scary anymore. So here we go. Moving right along, a purge cycle. Energy will surge forward ahead of the new moon. So after the full moon, we may go into a little bit of a lull period. We may, as these veils are thin, it may elicit emotions like depression or anxiety or stuff like that. That's all part of the purge and release process. Sometimes because the energies are increasing in this period exponentially, the feelings that come up are maybe unknown, and things that are unknown and unfamiliar, we naturally have an anxiety reaction to, because it's part of our survival instinct. When there's something unknown, our egos, or the parts of us that try to keep us alive, feel threatened until they understand that. So yeah, that's just something that I wanted to mention. So yeah, this is a purge cycle, and it's a good for letting go and releasing. So let me move on. For many, an initiation period, death, rebirth, changes of friends, changes of habits, changes of things that you like, changes of things that you don't like. That's natural. Don't fear. Just you learn how to again do long, deep breathing, inhaling love of the universe, exhaling, and naturally working with spirit to naturally release things. The thing is that as we feel more increased energy, we want to allow that rather than resist. When we resist, that's when there's problems psychologically, emotionally, as well as physically. But if we embrace the discomfort and understand that we live in a friendly universe, that there's nothing that's trying to harm us, when we resist the natural flows of energy, we put ourselves in a lower state of consciousness, and that's when we become more vulnerable to, say, like lower entities, or attachments, or negativity from the collective or from the outside. But when we just allow spirit to flow through us, we're linked in with the highest vibration of the universe, so nothing can harm you. And we live in a friendly universe. The one that created you will take care of you always. The one that created us wants to assist in our awakening and wants to help us to release those things that are unhealthy for us, that are unconducive to our growth, and that are just getting in the way of our lives, our spiritual growth, and our evolution. So trust that. And the more that you meditate and the more that you connect, the easier that it's going to be. So and the last thing that I wrote down is that they were saying, we feel that as a collective, that we as humans are not ready to release the collective pain body quite yet. So we want to prepare for the worst and hope for the best. This is still a fluid situation over the next 6 months. The more humanity can awaken, the easier the transition into this next state of consciousness is going to be. These next 2 weeks are going to be very pivotal because November and December are going to be very active months when it comes to the changing energies. And it's going to relate to a lot of changes that are going to be happening in the society around us. Changes in the government structures. Things are going to come to the surface because things just can't be held underground any longer. The corruption, the flow of money, the true conspiracies versus the ones that are really more fear-based and trying to get us to panic. And when we panic, we become more vulnerable to control. And also our immune system suffers because all of our energy goes into survival rather than into keeping our immune system strong. So we become actually more vulnerable to getting sick because of that. So they feel the collective's not ready for a smooth transition yet. So they want us to stock up on things like foods and goods and stuff like that during the autumn months, just in case there's shortages. Like any other storm, prepare for the worst, hope for the best. So to finish up, I wanted to talk about a few practices that we can do these next couple of weeks. And one is they were saying do some pineal gland activation. That's the third eye. That's our intuitive eye. A lot of our pineal glands are calcified because when we're in too much stress, which is our survival instinct, we're only supposed to have these hormonal reactions when there's actually danger to our lives, not when somebody says something we don't like on social media about what we should do about a pandemic, for example. So it gets calcified, and then the toxins in food and the fluorine and all that stuff. And what we want our third eyes to open. That gives us sight. That opens up our pathways to feel spirit, and it opens our psychic senses. They said to do just first to start just by feeling energy between your hands. Anybody can do this. The more that you meditate, the more that you just allow energy to flow through you, the more you'll feel the energy. And then just like people that do Reiki would understand this. um um and they're just saying to places on your temples to send the energy into your temples. I'm not, well, it links to the third eye. I shouldn't say I don't know why, but they're saying to do this as a practice. They're saying to eat light, but eat well. And that doesn't necessarily mean to go vegan, just to put that out there, because we all have different nutritional needs. But as far as like meat, dairy, and all that stuff goes, research that, the impacts to, the environment, the impacts to our body, and stuff like that. Um, but meat can, certain meats can be power foods also. So what they want us to do is to eat light, but to eat really good, powerful foods like super greens, lots of water, and they recommend doing juicing, especially green vegetables, to do a lot of juicing. The idea is that the energy is changing, the frequency as well as the amount of energy flowing through us is increasing, and our nervous systems, our cells, as well as our energetic systems have a little bit of a hard time keeping up. So by eating like this and doing juicing and breathing and a lot of water and stuff like that is helping our bodies to adjust to the higher frequencies that's flowing through all of us. Um, they said to do some heart expansion. I have a heart brain coherence on the live stream dated September the 24th. It has the same thumbnail as this one. Let's get spiritual. At least I think I used that thumbnail, but it's dated September 24th. But you can just practice as you're meditating, you inhale, feeling your heart expanding on the inhale, feeling it gently contracting on the exhale. This brings waves of energy. Everything moves in waves. Everything has a breath. Everything has a heartbeat. So if you do that, that helps to move the energy, and it helps to make your aura more elastic. Like because of our programming and social conditioning, and the fact that we've been pulled away from who we are as spirits. So we've been separated from our own spirit. We've been separated from the flows of nature. Our energy fields become very rigid. And just doing this type of breathing helps to bring that flow back, bring that elasticity back. Because what makes the increasing energies uncomfortable is the resistance to allowing it to flow. And if our energy, if our auras are very flowy and very much in sync with nature and elastic, then we don't have the obstructions, and we don't have the discomforts that come up when the energy increases. Hopefully that makes sense. They say to do yoga or qigong. Obviously, that those are good practices. I do kundalini yoga, breath work exercises. There's a lot to choose from. And you can start with just simple long deep breathing, 3 minutes at a time, 3 times a day, inhaling love of the universe into your heart, expand that around your field, exhale and release negative energy you don't need anymore. And they say to practice super presence, feel energy, learn to be a vessel, and allow spiritual forces to flow through you. So I talk all the time about presence on this channel. So that's just clearing your mind and being. And super presence takes it a step further, where you get so present that you lose your sense of identity, and your identity becomes spirit and energy. Like I'm not Adam, I'm not a medium, I'm not a YouTuber. I'm energy, I'm spirit, I'm source, I'm one with source. So once you can do that, then you step into, as Dr. Joe Dispenza says, you pass through the eye of the needle into the quantum field. And when you're in the quantum field, that's when you have access to everything, where that spirit, basically, another word for spirit in my estimation anyway. And then you can create your reality from that source that created everything. I did a couple more notes here. And the other thing I wrote down is, if it gets uncomfortable, just allow, relax. I said that. Okay. And that's basically it for today. I wanted to kind of make this on the short side. And I've already been over 20 minutes. I'm already longer than I wanted to be today. This Wednesday at 7 Eastern time here in the States, it's the full moon. We're doing the full moon activation. And sometimes when I go into the channel, it changes, but I believe the energies and consciousness known as Archangel Uriel are going to be leading this activation, and we'll continue to work on activating the light codes, or those um, dormant DNA or dormant codes that exist within us, waiting to activate it as we ascend and we evolve into our next level. They've been written into humanity, and we've been sort of guided in this process of evolution, for about 200,000 years now, when modern human first came in. And there's a lot of linking with extraterrestrial intelligences, or interdimensional intelligences. There's science behind that shows that basically the DNA of humans, that they came on 200,000 years. I mean, there's some chromosomes that are the same, but or some DNA that's the same, but the chromosomes are different. But long and the short of it is, it's impossible that we're directed descendants from Neanderthal, according to science. So in any event, and then we're going to do some live mediumship on Halloween night, so that'll be fun and exciting as well. And great. So thank you for everybody that joined us live. Again, this will be a video on the Medium channel that you can check back with. So you want to listen again and work with this energy. That's the idea. the main message is to not resist. That's usually the main message, and to know that this is a beautiful process. But because it's a big change, and because the human ego is very apt to resist because it sees change, or something unfamiliar as a threat to survival, you really have to learn how to be present and vibrate with spirit in order to not allow the ego and the tendencies of the body and the physical to resist and block. So that's what I have for you today. Namaste, aloha, and we shall see you at the next video.